Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
Well, a warm welcome. This is episode 53 of Football Then and Now, a look at current football and nostalgic topics too. And here is my co-host and cousin, Chris, in the place. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Bit good I wasn't there for last week's. I'm coming in what would be the word? I can't even say the word. It's just like frazzled out my head. Complacent. There you go. It's popped back in. A bit complacent, haven't I? But yeah, it's nice to be back, mate. Hopefully we can get a nice roll of myself and you together, because I think most people mistake now is like, who is your like co-host, because I'm hardly here. But yeah, the weather's nice today for once, and having a few beers and just chilling really before tomorrow, and then it's back to the grind in Tesco's.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Earning the conkers, absolutely. Chris, we've got quite a bit to get through. Obviously, I wanted to do a bit of nostalgia, and our first order of business, of course, because you're back, is on this date in football. Nostalgic topic, but a tough topic as well for on this day in football history. I'll throw the graphic up, and the floor is yours.
Well, it was a difficult one because, on this day, we've had. You jinxed it last time I was on, so I'll blame you for this. But there wasn't like much that stood out until I got to this one. We had Bristol City sacking Roy Hodgson in April 1982, which I thought it's not anything significant. And then we had on this day in April 1988, Peter Shilton broke Terry Payne's Football League appearance record with playing 120, 108. I can't even say the words now. 825, league matches, and that's fantastic. That many games played, and normally I would probably go with that because Peter Shilton, is a legend of the game. But then I came across this one, Stu, and we understand the situation, and it is with a heavy heart with us Evertonians, as well as it is primarily for the Liverpudlians. And from what I'm talking about now is in regards of Hillsborough, and we hate the Sun for what they did in that time, and it's good to see over the years that the families have got something back against the government. Not, obviously they want the husbands or the children back, but in regards of taking the blame away from the, said fans, they have challenged that for decades, and they have got, most of it back, that it wasn't their fault. And I don't want to sort of sour this, because as much as Hillsborough is it's a sore point, as I said, for both clubs, and both clubs, as much as we banter and they say, oh, we hate each other, etc., this is one true thing where both clubs and both sets of fans band together. But in regards to this, Stuart, obviously reading at it, it was the final match, and also the capacity was being reduced, due to the fact of what happened to Hillsborough. Obviously, we're seeing standing coming back more recently, haven't we? In the last probably 18 months, they have trialed it out and made it more safer than it was obviously back at Hillsborough. I'm still a bit iffy with that shoe myself, because it's still frightening to think that could happen again. Do you know what I mean? And you just never know. But obviously they had this last. Obviously, the Cop, and it was 30,000 standing people at that last game, which they played Norwich, and I think Norwich beat Liverpool as well. Come on, the Canaries, minus obviously what was going on. But I feel like, if you could look back at at that day in 1994, it must have been like thoughts and processes of the fans, and the football club itself must have been all over the place. So I'd like to think, well, what was your thoughts on on this day? I know it's a bit of a sour topic, this time round, but I feel at the same time it's, I like to talk about Hillsborough because I feel like most people don't know about it, and I think some people might not know about it. And it's a big story. It was a big thing that happened in football. It changed football forever. But yeah, what were your thoughts?
I just felt, obviously, you think it was 5 years, it's 5 years, pretty much the anniversary wasn't far past 5 years when it happened, that sad day. And, they obviously had to have inquiries and stuff like that, didn't they, along the way, as you said. But yeah, it had to happen, didn't it? I think maybe could it have happened sooner, changing it, but it took time, didn't it, of course. But yeah, just again, the amount of families that are split. We've talked about this various times, and there's rivalry, but it's a friendly rivalry, of course. But we lost people. The blue half of Merseyside lost people who were Reds as well, and just so sad, mate. Just so sad. But yeah, like you say, safer standing has been coming in at most clubs. We're going to have it in our ground.
Yeah.
It's been done. It's been done for years. In Europe, I know Dortmund have it in the big stand behind the goal there, and they can adapt it and stuff like that. But yeah, as long as it's safe, and they've done all the stuff that they've done with it. They've really thought about it this time round, and yeah, just terrible, Chris. Just terrible, Chris. And the amount of years that the families needed closure on Hillsborough as well, and it just obviously terrible. And a guy, more lastly, it went to 97 deaths, didn't it? The guy
it did.
Obviously disabled for all them years, but yeah, just as much as there's a rivalry between the Reds and the Blues with this, it affected fans of our club too. But yeah, I think just so sad, Chris.
It is, and I always post about it every year. Justice obviously was for the 96, and as you just said, now for the 97. You feel it, even though obviously we're not from Liverpool, but being an Evertonian as we have been, for almost 40 years of our life, and been in and around people from Liverpool or family members that are from that side of Merseyside, and you do feel it. You do. I think the TV show they did a fair few years ago, I think, helped put the spotlight back on it, and show people that didn't even know about it, the harsh realities. And that was sad to watch as well. But yeah, it's one of those sour things, isn't it? Because you can't really think of an upbeat, thing about the whole thing, because obviously it's just really sad. And to this day, a certain newspaper, The Sun, not allowed anywhere near both football clubs, as much as their reporters aren't allowed to be in press conferences, I believe so.
It's just absolute madness what happened, and the police as well. High-ranking police officers that lied, and their fans were vilified that day. They were the problem. It was the fault of the security and the police letting all them people in. It was just so, and to put the blame on those Liverpool fans saying they caused it, but many years later, it was. I'd call it some sort of closure, but it still doesn't bring back all them people that perished on that day. So sad. And the anniversary comes around every year, and it's for them families that those families will still be grieving.
Of course,
for the rest of their days. That will never change. You're expected to come back from a football match. We all love going to the football, but you're expected to come home, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. It's not nothing in your mind, and especially say your mum or whoever's at home who doesn't come to the game with you. They expect to see you after game, up or down, considering the result, what have you. But to be a parent and your kids have gone to watch a football game that they go every week at, and then all of a sudden they're not coming home, you don't know what's going on. You turn the telly on, and then you see all that horrificness, Hillsborough, with people all over the pitch, and they're not letting enough flipping ambulances on the pitch to get in and help. And yeah, it's a horrible story. And all I can do is think about the families that lost a son, a daughter, a husband, a granddad at that point.
We'll be getting on some more positive topic for the Reds fans, of course. Just prior to that, we're going to talk about Arsenal PSG last night as well, Chris. But Liverpool fans, rest assured we are coming in with your Premier League title win, of course, over the weekend. 4 games to spare. But I just want to talk about last night's match with you, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you for the On This Date in Football History. Great to have it back, of course, with you back on the show this week. Yeah. And into Champions League semi-final time. It's getting to the crunch now. But an early goal from Ousmane Dembele, who has now scored 25 goals in 2025, basically. He's been absolutely superb form. Great pass in from Kvaratskhelia off the left-hand side. Scored very early, although Arsenal did have a couple of chances from Trossard and Martinelli in the game. Donnarumma, some class in Donnarumma as the top keeper in Europe at the moment, closely followed by the likes of Courtois, of course. Mm-hmm. But again, some big saves from him. Raya had to make a couple of saves as well. Along the way, PSG hit the bar late on as well. Ramos hitting the bar. What did you think from a first leg perspective? Obviously, there's no away goal, so it's just a 1-goal lead where it used to be. You'd be looking at it and say, "Well, they've got a 2-goal lead with that away goal." Yeah. So, what were your thoughts and feelings with the Arsenal performance? What did you see, and what do they need to implement going into the second leg in Paris next week?
I think when you from the off of that game. The two contrasts of how they handled Real Madrid, and they handled Real Madrid fantastically, through the midfield to the defense. We can talk about attacking all day long, but they literally blanketed Vinicius Junior, didn't they, and Mbappe, and they did it superbly. In this one, Stuart, from as soon as they kicked off, and PSG, started coming towards their box, they just seemed very sloppy. I think Justin Timber was having a right whale of the time again up against, and I know the guy, I can't pronounce his name, Stu. Is it
Kvaratskhelia?
Yeah, there you go. You're better than that way. But and I know he's a world-class player. Don't get me wrong, and he gives a lot of defenders headaches. But I feel Timber especially was struggling up against him, and he was getting in multiple times. And then, as you say, when we were talking off before we came on, and Dembele's just scored an absolute. I'd say it's a cracking goal. The amount of players that were in front of him, and he knew where he was going. He wanted that bottom corner, and it makes it look better once it pings off the post. We all know that. And I don't think Arsenal really recovered. I think that there were times when PSG did get in. Raya made a hell of a save. I think is it Doué, and it was quite a point blank one, but he made a good save. But every time they were coming in, it just seems like Arsenal were off the pace at the back, because also we know that PSG do have the pace going forward, and it just seems to be that they were struggling to cope with the pace. But then you go into midfield, and this midfield, it was fantastic against Real Madrid. Couldn't get a foothold in it. I think Rice struggled playing that deep. And then, they missed Partey as well. That combination of Rice and Partey have been fantastic for Arsenal this season. And yeah, I just think, PSG seem to have the handle of beating British clubs at the moment in Europe. And I think they would have taken a 1-0 victory all day, every day at the Emirates Stadium.
100%. And Mikel Arteta, obviously, is a very young player. Played alongside Luis Enrique. They did a little bit beforehand, didn't they? So there's like a 10-year differential between them, but they played obviously together. Arteta was at PSG as well, prior to being at Rangers and Everton, of course. So there's links galore to both managers and the clubs. But yeah, again, I don't think Arsenal are out of it. And some people say PSG being so strong, knocking out Liverpool. knocking out Villa. Although Villa had their chances, of course, came on really strong in the second half and the second leg at Villa Park. I was speaking to Brady about it a couple of weeks ago, of course. But I just think Arsenal are not out of this. Now, it's going to be tough going there for the second leg. I always look at it, would Arsenal have been better off playing away first? That's always a talking point, isn't it? You've got to wonder and then come to the Emirates for the second leg. What are your thoughts on that? I think sometimes maybe that would have been better for them, in my opinion. What do you think?
What do you say? What, because of too much of the pressure of the home leg first?
And I think you know what you've got to do more so, haven't you? And okay. I just think it may have benefited them, and we'll see. But what did you feel?
I don't know, Stu. I feel like, if you go into the Stade de France and the way PSG, I know they lost in the league for the first time the other week, but I don't know if Arsenal went and played the Stade de France like they played last night. I think it would have been more than 1-0. I feel like PSG would have had the momentum with the fans and being at home. They would have. You could have seen at least 3. 3-0 to PSG if this was the home leg Stade de France. But I don't know, Stuart. It's very difficult because a lot of teams can play better away, and some teams prefer to play at home first leg because of the momentum and the fan base that you can get to support your club. It's a difficult one, but they've got it. They've got to go for it. At the end of the day, Villa went for it, didn't they, in that second half of the second leg, and I think they really put the fear of God into PSG in that game. This is a difficult one. Does Luis Enrique play the way they played last night at home and try and sort of hit them on the counter-attack? Because obviously they're very good at the counter-attack in football, and Luis Enrique had Barcelona doing it so well when he was there. It's a hard one. I'm going to ask you this. Do Arsenal have enough firepower?
This has been the point of contention for so long. Havertz was playing a false 9, essentially, wasn't he? But he was scoring goals, especially last season. And again, it's been the glaringly obvious thing to talk about, isn't it? Right the way through, they didn't sign a striker in the summer. The January market, it's very, very hard to get all the players, as we've stated on this show at various points.
Oh yeah.
Again, I think they're missing a striker. If they had like an Alexander Isak up front, it'd be a total different ball game. And I'm sure during the summer, Arteta will have to address it, and they're going to have to. It's glaringly obvious they're missing a striker. And, Mourinho can do it to a certain point, but it's not his natural position. No. He's better in central midfield, but he's played there. Again, last night you could see it. They had Trossard there, but again, players are floating in and out of position. If they're on the wing, then they could be in the 9. Martinelli. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of switching around. They need a striker. I don't know what sort of war chest Arteta's got, but it could be the difference, couldn't it? And it could, They've lost the league, of course. This is the last throw of the dice, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Next week in Paris for him,
They needed. I was speaking to one of my friends who's an Arsenal fan via Messenger, and I said, "What you're needing and you're missing here, you're missing a big man up front that can hold the ball, and help Arsenal. The rest of the players get up. As you say, they're all intertwined between Saka, Martinelli, and Trossard. And there's no one holding the ball up to get the play up, at a good pace. They're all sort of trying to get in between defenders or, make a run. And I don't think, that was great for Arsenal. And I think it worked straight into PSG's, plan. And I think if you had Mourinho, playing in that role that he's been playing recently for Arsenal, you say his natural position's central midfield, Stuart. He's been quite decent up front for Arsenal when he's played up there, to be fair. But that he's a big man. Well, he's not. Yeah, he's quite a big man, isn't he? He's quite tall. I think he would have been able to hold the ball up as much as he could, and then the players could have got up further, up the pitch, and been able to sort of attack PSG in a more traditional, obviously, way, but. It's a difficult one going to the Stade de France, Stuart. We've seen Liverpool. I know Liverpool won there, didn't they? But they were under the cosh all the way through the game. Villa scored there, but succumb to the pace and the pressure that PSG could put on you. Obviously, I know City have lost there as well, haven't they? In the league stage of the Champions League after taking the lead. It's a difficult one, but they're going to have to step up, and they're going to have to, find someone other than Saka that can penetrate the goal.
Again, just before we move on, and I've got a message from Jack Reynolds here about United, but I just want to say as well, off the goal that was obviously disallowed, Marino, and they played that high line before the free kick got hit. And I was thinking to myself, they need to push it quickly here. Obviously, it's going to be an offside, but it was still very tight. But tactically, if that works for you, they came back up, into line with the Paris Saint-Germain back line, of course. It was just inches, literally inches, centimetres in it. But again, when they went to the VAR, it was offside. So, yeah, just they've been deadly off set pieces, Arsenal, most of the season, of course. But, yeah, I think they're not out of it. They're not out of that game at all. And we look forward to the second leg, which will obviously be next Wednesday, of course. And Jack Reynolds, Man United to win the Europa. Well, Bilbao, I think up to last week, had lost less games domestically than Barcelona. And the final is the finals in Bilbao. Jack, I don't want to write you off at all, but I think Bilbao are going to be very strong. And Bodo Glimt versus Spurs. Bodo Glimt, obviously, they beat Lazio over 2 legs.
Yeah, I know. I watched that today, Stu. There was a YouTube channel, sorry to put in, and it had
right.
It had all the goals from the Europa League. And that game obviously came up. And, Lazio have, they've come back a bit over the years, haven't they, Lazio, considering how good they were in the early 90s. And Bodo Glimt aren't really renowned for going into the deep stages of any competition, really, that's, a European one. But, yeah, if you could knock out Lazio. And we know that Tottenham struggle now and again, don't they, against the lesser teams in Europe. We've seen it before. And we don't know what they're going to be with after the thrashing up Liverpool gave them, we're going to talk about shortly. And is his head still in the game? There's a lot of rumours going now about him leaving. So, it could be United's to win. But as you say, Bilbao have always been a very steady mid-table team in La Liga. But I didn't know what they lost less than Barca at that point. I didn't know that.
They've drawn a hell of a lot of games. It's a bit like Juventus' situation. Juventus will be further up. Like they draw a lot of games as well. But yeah, literally haven't lost that many times. And I tell you that the final being in Bilbao, you could have said about Munich in the quarterfinals because Champions League is obviously Munich, the final. But I think, Bilbao are going to be going hammer and tongs to get to that final. Yeah, I'm not writing United off, and the league form has just been so dire. And I know many United fans haven't been happy. A bit of a shame. Amad Diallo is back in training and De Ligt, but I don't think it's going to be their time on Thursday evening. To get back in time to obviously play. But they might feature in the second leg. You don't know. But again, you're away. United are away first, which might benefit them. It might benefit them over the 2 legs, getting Bilbao away out the way and then into Old Trafford. But yeah, both Spurs and United need it. Like I was saying to Brady last week, because the league form, it's just not acceptable, for those 2 clubs, is it? I don't think anybody would have expected them to be so low down the pecking order. What do you think with the pair of them?
They've had an awful season, and to see how bad we've been, and they're below us in the league. It's United has been since Alex Ferguson, but we've spoke about United, and it's everything that's gone on. It's been the same sort of situation as us with owners and they're messing about and overspending on players that aren't worth, the price tag that they've bought these players from, which essentially, Stuart, is completely crippled them. And I think the swapping and changing of managers, again, that's something we're very familiar with at Everton because we've been doing the same. Different philosophies, and then you've got players that they don't want from previous that don't fit in with the tactics that the new manager, has come in with. This is I like Ruben Amorim, but he's not been able to get the players he wants. I know we got Ugarte from Sporting, But I'm sure there's a few more players from Sporting he'd love to bring in, but he obviously wasn't allowed to spend so much. It's a difficult one for them to see that they were bottom of the top half for quite a while, weren't they? And then this season they've really, really, really dropped off. Tottenham's a strange one for me. I like Ange. For me and you spoke about him when he was at Celtic. That we would loved him to be at Everton at some point. I've always rated him as a manager, but I don't know what it is. Is it Daniel Levy? There's some obviously issues going as well at the back of the higher guards of Tottenham, if I'm honest. It's not like they're not making enough money, because they are making a bucket load of money. But they're not spending the money, Stuart. And the players they bought in as well. I mean, I know they bought some good players in. Van der Veen is a fantastic defender, but he's often out with hamstrings, isn't he? And Doggy as well, I like the player, but again, is another one that has hamstring problems. They've not really replaced Harry Kane, have they? Because he pulled them out of a lot of tight spots. You'd agree with that? It's just I don't know whether do they start again in the summer for Tottenham and Ange has to go. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to go to Anfield and lose 5-0 at all. And we've been in these situations ourselves when it's a derby. So it's a difficult one. Both clubs really need to take a look at themselves in the summer, personally.
Lewis Young in the comments. You haven't commented for a while, actually, Lewis. Good to see you've commented there. Up in Scotland, of course, up in Falkirk in Scotland. I hope you're well, Lewis. And if you've got anything else to comment on, please comment. Me and Chris will definitely answer it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting on Thursday night in the Europa League, of course. And moving on to the second semi-final, that is this evening, as Barcelona welcome Inter Milan in the Champions League semi-final, of course, tonight, Chris. Barcelona, who won the Copa del Rey over the weekend, a 3-2 victory against Real Madrid, of course. Hansi Flick, I think, he's had a great start to life.
Yeah,
with the Catalans, it's been brilliant. It's been really, really good. Top of the league as well. They've done the Copa del Rey, so they're still fighting for a Champions League as well. They could end up with 3 trophies. The way it's looking. Inter Milan have hit a bit of a sticky patch in terms of form. They've lost their last 3. Napoli have gone 3 points clear. Antonio Conte's Napoli. They've gone 3 points clear over the weekend. Scott McTominay with 2 goals in that game, taking his tally to 11 in Serie A alone.
What season he's having as well.
Brilliant. United should never have got rid of him. I've had United fans saying about it as well. And, he's got Lukaku there. Conte, he's worked with him over the years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So Napoli are going great guns, at the tail end of the season. Inter Milan need to hit form domestically. But on to tonight, what do you predict in this first leg? Obviously, Barcelona is still playing it at the Olympic Stadium. New camp is still getting done up, of course.
Yeah.
What's your prediction tonight?
Can I just point out, Stuart, in that picture with Rafinha, I'm not a big fan of that Barca kit at all. I don't mind the Nike tick and wearing the badges, but that Spotify logo is horrific.
I think they're going back to stripes next season. I think if that kit is legit, I think you're gonna get the old stripe number. They change it, don't they?
I know, but that sponsor logo is, and I'm not knocking Spotify because I love Spotify, but the logo on
it's not for you. It's not your cup of tea.
What would you run that on our kit?
Over steak, I would. I think steak looks hideous on those kits.
Yeah,
the logo's too big. The writing's too big on it, and again, gambling firms are meant to be coming off the kits, aren't they, of course? But I'd take the Spotify logo over what we've got.
Well, yeah, but then again, no, Stuart, we could end up with Toyota's blooming logo, and that's a big logo itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If it's lucrative for us, mate, we'll take it. We'll take whatever we take. But
it is. It's money at the end of the day, and I get that. And Barca, considering how bad financially things are for them at the moment, I'm sure they take anything they can get. But going back to the game, I think is this a way for Inter or a way for Barca?
They're going to the Olympic Stadium in Barcelona tonight.
Right.
Yeah, they've got to go there first. And Inter have been relatively well organised at the back, but they've had, like I say, they've had three losses. So and I think they lost 3-0 and they lost 1-0 to Roma on the weekend. So again, they're pretty sturdy at the back, but we've seen how many goals Barcelona have scored throughout the season. There's been 4s and 5s in numerous games, Chris.
Yeah, and when Barca start hitting a stride like that, and I've seen rumored that obviously they want to tie down Flick for a bit longer, which you can understand that because this is his full for the first season with Barca, and he's been fantastic for them as a manager, and probably one of the best they've had for a while. Not to say that everyone else previous before him, but he's been a lot more consistent with the players coming through and doing it the Barca way. I think as that picture with Rafinha, he's been a fantastic buy from Leeds for Barca, and he was struggling to get in. Don't forget at the beginning of his career at Barca, but now he's first name on the team sheet these days, and well deserved as well. I think going back to the game now, Inter have been very good defensively, and I think Inter Milan have always been quite decent defensively, but you're playing against a hungry team here in Barcelona. And I think they really want to re-establish everything with all the negativity that you've seen with Barca over the years. And it has really, really hit them hard because they haven't really come to Europe and been as dominant they have been. So I think that you're seeing Barca coming back, that hunger. So I think Inter are going to struggle with this one. And I'm only because I think Barca at the moment are just like a Trojan horse at the moment, Stu. And it's not for my love for Barca from the early 90s and all that, but I just think Barca are going to go there. Inter are going to go there and they're going to get. They could easily lose 4-5-0 again. Well, not again, but Barca could score 4 or 5 again, and that goes to any team. You know what Barca are like when they're in the mood. You could put the best team in the world against them at the point where they're on the point, Stu, and they'll rip through them.
100%. It's going to be good tonight again. If I could press you for a score just before we move on to our next item, of course, a little prediction. Mine and Brady's predictions didn't go to plan last week.
Nor did ours with the Arsenal Real Madrid. We got it the wrong way round.
We're like you always said about Chael's son and predicting fights. We did Big Fight Weekly getting it wrong. We're in Chael territory. The lot of us doing predictions for the football. But I will ask you for a first prediction.
I think Barca will win this. Obviously, I've obviously made that point then. I think I would go personally 3-1. I think Inter will still score because I still think Barca do give you chances like Real Madrid do. But I think Barca just, like I said, you're seeing them come back to the way they used to be under Pep Guardiola. Obviously, minus Messi, but there are better players now. Not saying that Messi can be replaced because he's a fantastic icon, but you're seeing Barca come back to that positivity on the pitch, and they're hungry, as I said. So at 3-1, I'd go Barca.
Perfect. I'm gonna go 2-1 Barca tonight. But again, Inter Milan need to get back to the form they were in prior to this little slump that they're in. Again, one eye on this, one eye on the league. Antonio Conte has won championships within Europe. So they're coming on strong, Napoli, towards the back end of the season, of course. But yeah, fantastic. Again, the Champions League, it's been great. It's been great this season. It really has been some fantastic matches. And yeah, all the best to the 4 teams left in it.
You've said about it being fantastic. I think the smaller teams, actually, I don't want to say smaller teams because that's discrediting. The lesser teams on paper against the bigger names that we're used to seeing, but the smaller teams I feel like have really shone in this league, and we've seen some really, really good games by teams that don't normally show up, and you know what I mean. Obviously, they're not in the deeper stages as we're at now, but it's been good. It's been a good show for those clubs. Minus all the big ones that are always in, the knockout stages and what have you. I've like Villa. We say Villa, Stuart. I have to say Villa because they've come out of nowhere. We've seen it ourselves. because we watched them in the Premier League. The people that don't watch them in the Premier League are obviously now going to be turned on to how Villa get on, because they have come out of nowhere.
Definitely, and their fan base are going to be expecting it now. Year on year, every year. Again, there's a fight for the top 5. As I was saying to Brady, we spoke at length about that last week. Villa just outside at the moment, of course, but still well within it. I think, not to say they would be disappointed being in the Europa League, but they were knocked out by Palace over the weekend. I did not see that one coming. I really didn't. Again, they had chances within that game, but the Villa fan base are going to now be wanting that top 5 spot, aren't they, with the 5 clubs going in?
Yeah.
They've been everybody's second team, Villa. They really have. They really have over the course of it. And, it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Chris, I'm just going to move us along.
Yeah, sorry.
No, not at all, mate. Not at all. It's fine. We had a little bit of depth to the previous segments. Now, the red side are going to say we're not shining a light on them being Blues, of course. But you said to me, we're going to have to cover them winning the league. We are about the viewers and the listeners with this.
Yeah,
we will cover them, and they've been brilliant all season long. I'll probably get shot down for saying it. 4 games to spare, and they've won it. Of course, Arsenal, I've made light of it, weeks and weeks and weeks of it. They drew too many games, losing to West Ham along the way. But that is not to discredit how good Liverpool have been, because they could hit 90 points by the end of the season, which is a good barometer, isn't it? People saying, too many clubs have fallen short, City, Arsenal. I don't mean that's fair, because I think over the course of the season, Arne Slot, he's taken on the baton from Klopp. Again, they're saying, it's the same players, but they played differently, as we've spoken about leading up to it. And just your thoughts. And as we said, they tonked Spurs 5-1 in the end at the weekend at Anfield. And just your thoughts on Liverpool's season and winning the Premier League.
I'm going to take my Everton hat off first, Jim. Just place that on the table. No, they have been terrific this season, and they have been for a good couple of years. It's just that Man City have been just a bit better than them. Obviously they won in the COVID year, didn't they? And it didn't feel like a win for them, because they didn't open up in front of everybody like they did on Sunday and celebrate with their fans, because there was COVID and it didn't feel right for them. And the whole season didn't feel right. But, they did it in front of the fans for the first time. And, if you ignore the COVID, this is the first time in a long time that they've seen a trophy picked up that the fans have been been there to witness. And they made, as you say, light work at Tottenham. It seemed to me like they were just having fun out there. Salah's been fantastic, Stuart. I don't know what Klopp's done to him, because it looked to me that he was quite pissed off with Klopp towards the end of last season. We saw at West Ham and they had a bit of a hairy moment, which is unlike Salah, because he's quite a placid guy. But Slot has got him motoring like he was in his first couple of years at Liverpool. Jota's been great, even though he's been injured quite a bit. But when he's come on, he has scored goals. We've seen it. We've literally seen it in derbies. Luis Diaz, love the player. I've always liked him. Great. And in midfield, Stuart, people are all worrying about their midfield. Szoboszlai playing in that number 10. Not really a lot of teams play with that number 10 role now, do they? But that's Slot's game. He likes to play with that number 10. And Szoboszlai's, main position is that number 10. And he's been terrific for Liverpool this season. Gravenberch, again, is another player I really like. The Ajax didn't work at Bayern, but fantastic at Liverpool. The defence, again, Van Dijk's been solid. Konate's been solid. Anthony Robinson is always solid. Trent, yes and no. I don't know whether the whole Real Madrid situation has changed his feelings. We don't know. We're not football players. We don't, what I mean. But we can only sort of think what you if Real Madrid wanted you to go. But it doesn't matter, because they blew everyone out the water this season, Stu. I think, was it only Forest that's gone to Anfield this season?
They've only lost 2, and it was the one game the one game at home, which are going back to like September, October when they lost, and a lot of people didn't see it. And look at Forest now, although they've dropped that third place, haven't they? Because City have been on a charge recently, but losing that game to Forest doesn't look that bad over the course of the season because they've been so good. That can happen to anybody in that league. It's just how competitive it is. But with Trent, it's gone slightly quiet about Madrid. Now, again, it's the contract and stuff like that. There's going to be contract talks. A lot of people said Salah was going. That was it.
Well, yeah,
he was going to go.
Yeah.
And he signed that 2-year deal. Virgil signed on. It wouldn't surprise me if Trent signed on as well, but again, he's in that 26, 27-year-old area. Would he like to go to Madrid? You can kind of understand it. He's won everything. He's won everything at Liverpool. He's won every single title at Liverpool, at two Premier Leagues. Now he's at the Champions League. So some people are like, why would he go to Madrid? But again, I think it wouldn't be beyond the realms that he signed back on with Liverpool, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Madrid for something new, for a challenge, as has been reported for the last 6-7 months.
Well, we know that Carlo's leaving, don't we? We know that Carlo and Brazil have been flirting for months and months and months. And it feels like to me that Carlo's going to go and manage Brazil. Rumours at it are obviously Xabi Alonso, Leverkusen's manager. If you don't know, don't know. How don't you know? It looks like he's going to be the one that will take the reins. That's the rumours. I don't know officially. I don't have any inside sources, but I'm only reading obviously what I see on the internet. And that'd be great for Real Madrid because Xabi would completely rip up the play script at Real Madrid because he plays so differently to every manager they've had. Would Xabi want Trent? Is that a signing that they want now with Carlo going?
And as good as Madrid's midfield is, of course, are they looking at it? Would he just play fullback, wing back, or would he come into a central position as he's played at times for Liverpool and he's played for England? You've got an aging Luka Modric there. I know they've got a hell of a team, and people are disputing about Madrid. They've been poor and stuff like that. But again, it's what does he want to do? That's the big question there. But they've been brilliant over the course. They really have, and that doesn't pay me to say that because it's Liverpool at all. They've been domestically they've been fantastic. On another day, they could have potentially knocked PSG out. It went as far as it went. Of course, you can't dispute it. Great job by Arne Slot. Going back to Salah, Chris. 28 goals in the league and 18 assists, and he's close now to 60 goal involvements across the whole season. You're looking at 2 or 3 players attempting to get those stats. So, like you said, it's been full circle with him this season, and I'm sure it's put a lot of Liverpool fans at ease him signing on because that was a big talking point for so long. He was going to go. He wanted 3 years. I'd read online. They were only willing to give him 2, and I'd heard that for a long time. Within the media, though, as you say, you take a lot of it with a pinch of salt. But I think the media sources I've seen were proved correct because they said all along Liverpool were only willing to give him 2 years, not 3, and he signed on the dotted line. Again, Chris, let's get a story out there, isn't it? A lot of the time, if it's a slow news day. If it's a slow news day, it's like, let's cause a bit of upheaval. The player wants to wait. We see it all the time, don't we? Anybody can turn journalist. That's just the way of the internet, isn't it?
Salah's never once, in his final, the last 2 years, of his last 2 seasons, has never said he's wanted to leave. And, normally they do pipe up, don't they? Obviously maybe through an agency or maybe, tickle a bit of a newspaper maybe. But he's never once said he wanted to go. And Saudi must be interested. That must interest him. But why go to Saudi now when you're still ripping it up? And it feels like he could go on for quite a while still. He can still go to Saudi Arabia and make a bucket load of money in 2 years' time. And, nothing will change for Mohamed Salah because that would be the biggest signing for the Saudi league, considering his, his religious ways and, Egypt, being in that African sort of area or Asian area, sorry. So, that can still happen, and he can still make bank, as we would say, when he goes there. But like I said, he's a prime person I think a lot of players should look at. You can always go to that league and make your money, yes. But if you want to play against real teams in a real football game, and you're for the game as much as you are for the money, yes. But why would you go to Saudi and waste that talent like Duran? And I'm sorry to say this, but Duran's got and wasted his talent. I know he wants to make money for his family, and I can't knock that. But I'm looking at the football skills here. Salah doesn't need to go anywhere. If he's still playing the way he is under Slot, then he's in the right place. And I don't want to play against him. I hate when we play against him. But it's great. It's great that he's stayed in the Premier League. The same for Van Dijk. Is it like you want the best players in our league? You want, as many of the best players, the world class players, the elite players. You want them in the Premier League because you want to watch them. It's not just about watching your football club. If you're a big football fan, you watch as many games as you possibly can. But you want to watch it for these big time players. And Salah and Van Dijk, unfortunately, being an Evertonian, to say this, they are big time players. And you 100%. Do watch them because they pull things out the bag that a lot of players can't do. And that's why you're drawn to them. And I'm glad the same, Stu.
I've been very impressed with Alexis McAllister as well. Again, because it's like you can play the 6, he can play the 8, he can play the 10, he can play all them central positions. He's had goals. He's been absolutely brilliant for them. Again, a young player that's been coming through over the last couple of years as well. When called upon, Connor Bradley. See, Northern Ireland, he's cat for Northern Ireland. He's had the captain's armband for Northern Ireland as well. So they have got the players coming through. It'll be interesting to see over the next year or two who Slot brings in, which players he'll bring in to replace aging players, maybe to change things. If transfers happen, as reported, you might have to make some moves in the summer. Isak's been heavily linked.
Again, he's going to cost a load of money, though, isn't he?
A lot of money. And Nunes has been very hit and miss, so I can kind of understand.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you that. Do you think he's going to be at Liverpool next season?
I think if Isak comes in, he's going to have to go. Now, I've heard various stories. He'd go somewhere else, or he'd be a make way for Isak. So Newcastle would end up with Nunes. But I think maybe if Nunes plays week in, week out, he could be a hit at Newcastle. But again, very patchy. The form so patchy, not scored enough goals. Luckily, as we've said, Salah has been so prolific.
All three are different at the top end, to be fair.
Gakpo.
Yeah, Gakpo. Yeah. I love Gakpo. Great player. And to think that he could have ended up at Southampton before Liverpool is nutty. But Gakpo's a great player, and Slot's managed to work it, in a way that one player might start one game, the next player starts the other, but no one complained. They've got on with the job, and it's won them the league. And they're not playing with an out-and-out striker, Stuart. There's no out-and-out striker other than Darwin Núñez, who can't hit a barn door, unfortunately. He's got the strength. He's agile. He's got the height. He can't finish. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate for him. I'd never rated him at 80 million. The same year we saw Haaland go, to Man City the same year. But even he's fallen off at the moment. But that's just the season City are having. But they're not playing with an out-and-out striker, Stuart. They're all playing.
They float. They've
the team.
They've done that. They've done that. Like with obviously when they had Mane there as well, Firmino and Salah. It was like floating that the front three just in different positions, picking up. One could then go central, and tactically for the opposition, it's a nightmare, isn't it? And they've done that. They've done that again. They've stuck to that like Klopp used to do. Gakpo, Jota, although Jota's been very injury prone, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Yeah.
Chris, I've got to close out though on they bought Flares. They bought Flares, and you wanted to bring this up because we've got to end it with a bit of blue nose shitehousery expletive, of course. Said red Flares that they thought they bought that had the red gunpowder in them, of course. Didn't have red powder and coming out of them, did they? They were relabeled, buying them off an Everton fan of all people. And I've got an image, but yeah, the flares were blue, as you can see there in one of the pictures. It happened in the stadium as well.
I saw it in the stadium. Yeah.
So, what did you think? What was
Well,
your first thoughts and feelings of that? Did we one-up them with that?
Well, listen, it's just well, they would do the same thing to us if we were in that position. I think it's a bit of a cheeky one, isn't it? And it's funny. One of my close friends, John, he was at the game against Tottenham, and he messaged me and goes, "Your fans are cheeky little bastards." And he with a laughing face, like he goes, "I'm seeing blue flares everywhere." And you know what? It's funny, isn't it? You know what I mean? We'll crash a party. Why not? But to the guy that sold them and resticking all those flares to red, hats off to you. Because that was absolutely amazing. That was what a genius idea. You know what I mean? Just to change so many boxes of red, blue flares to red, and they're running around with royal blue flares, thinking, you know what I mean, that they're the shit. That was fantastic, and it just shows you the comedy of the rivalry between Everton and Liverpool. You know what I mean? As we've always alluded, it's always been a friendly rivalry. You don't get an Everton Liverpool rivalry everywhere else because you have fans, not as much now, but they did used to sit together, didn't they, in their own stands, and we've seen it. Lots of times over the years. But I loved it, Stu. When John sent me that, and I wasn't watching the build up to the game, and when I turned it on, and I went on X, Twitter, what we want to call it, and I seen countless photos. Obviously, what you brought up there, I was laughing my head off, just thinking, you know what I mean? It's only our fans that would do something fucking stupid, and you know what I mean, piss them off, like. I loved it, and keeps us in their head. We live there rent free.
No, we were very positive, to be fair, as Blues, about their season. Let's we've added a bit of balance to this. I want to just to close out. We're on like 52 minutes since we started, of course, and we're all about being in and out with topics. But just want the closing topic, I thought, because we haven't done much nostalgia in the more recent episodes and games. We've spoken about. Computer games, football computer games we played, management ones, Championship Manager. I know you've carried on with Football Manager year on year, every year.
Mine is amazing, Stu, because
of course, changing developer, and you said there was going to be issues, and we spoke to John Scott, of course, about it towards the back end of the year and towards the start of the year as well. But a game we played that I had on the PlayStation, an underrated football game on PlayStation 1. I've got the back of the box here, and it was the second Champions League game that came out in 2000-2001. Me and you would play together, wouldn't we? We combine. We actually scored the goal from the halfway line, which I don't know how the hell we managed to do that. And I think we tried it again. Right, get into the centre circle, try it again. It must have been a glitch. But the ball went from the halfway line all the way into the goal, and madness, absolute madness. I played the first incarnation at my cousin Daniel's, so I was like, I'm going to get the second game when it came out. But great game. Obviously, a lot of football games didn't have the licenses aside from FIFA. Years of international superstar soccer. Pro Evo didn't have the names until later as well. So you had all the names, didn't you? You had all the licenses. So that was a big thing for us growing up, wasn't it? But your memories of this game, and I've got a few graphics.
Oh, right. To all the listeners, we're talking about the Champions League game that was on the PlayStation. I rented the first one out at Blockbusters, God rest its soul, when the first one came out on the PlayStation. And I play on hard, and I'd get to the final, and I would always lose. And I only had it for that weekend, Stu. 2 days, I think it was. I think it was like £3 for 2 days back then, Stu. And I couldn't win the Champions League. And I remember being really pissed off giving it to my dad to take back on the Monday because I didn't win it. And I was playing this though, loved it, and I had so many funny memories, like where obviously that the double kicked halfway line goal, can't recreate it. You know what I mean? You just can't do it. And we had a lot of fun with the games like this. Pro Evo's Champions League one. When me and you did that. We're very unorthodox, me and you, when it comes to combining ourselves with sports, isn't it, really? And we just pull out some random things that most people can never do. But I love the game. It was Stuart. It was different, and it wasn't FIFA. And as you say, you could put your own club in the Champions League as well. And I loved all that. It's something you don't get now because it's obviously monopolized EA Sports or EA, EAFC with the as you say, the logos, the names, the kits. Obviously, Football Manager was supposed to have it in 2005. Obviously, that got cancelled, so God knows what's going on with 2006. But as you say, Pro Evo got like a couple of clubs, didn't they? Every year. You don't, I mean, not FIFA, sorry, EA Sports, EAFC still have the monopoly on everything, the looks, the kits, the logos and everything. They still have that monopoly. The games aren't as good as they used to be. I think me and you would probably stand here and say that we are Pro Evo guys from the 2000s and onwards.
So good. Looking at those graphics there, just that hazy,
yeah, that's
32-bit haze. That didn't bother us. That was just part of it. I know a lot of games now get done up into like 1080 and stuff like that.
Yeah, but we didn't have 1080 back in
No, I love that. I love the grainy graphics, and the 32-bit and 64-bit era are great. I'm predating that. The Mega Drive and the SNES, the 16-bit era. Kids today, unless they've got like emulators and stuff, or they've got these consoles where they've got the old consoles on. But for us, I they were the days, man. And I go back to nostalgia. I get shot down by the youth of today, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But I love the haziness of it. And you could be the finalists from 1960 onwards. You could be classic teams on this as well. So, you had like the Benfica team of the 60s with Eusebio and stuff. So it was really, really good. And IDOS, the developer, they did some fantastic games. IDOS.
Yeah, they were involved
Great
with
developer.
Manager as well, weren't they, in the early days, IDOS? Unfortunately, obviously, they got absolved into EA when EA bought completely everything out in that sense. It was just like games back then, Stuart. Like every year we get a new game. And the graphics to us back then were fucking amazing. I'm not saying now because now it's different, but when we were kids, you didn't have what you have now. You don't have proper faces that look like literally legit of the player. They could have blockheads with some sort of similar bits of their face. Stuart, as you see there, they've all got square heads. But to us, that was amazing because, we were so used to the 16-bit, the 8-bit, the 32-bit. The 64-bit, you know what I mean? And every time we went with the years, Stu, they were amazing. I'm glad we've gone and experienced that because you see where we were at. Like you're looking now, Stu, and look at the football games now. And I think most people from our era would love to go back and play this sort of game than play current.
100%. It was fast. It was quick pace, this game as well. Yeah. Back in the day. I'm just looking at a name there. There's an iconic name, Valencia, who in that late 90s into the early 2000s, they had some great players. Ruben Baraka, what a player he was. Yeah. And again, Rui George for sport in Lisbon there, Chris. Just nostalgia at its best, and football nostalgia. And and again, like more latterly, you'd have to get a multi-tap for the PlayStation to get more than two of you playing. Yeah, you needed your memory cards.
Oh God, yeah.
You needed everything. You needed everything, didn't you? You needed all the kit, and you needed extra bits and pieces.
You you knew with Nintendo you always had like the storage because obviously cartridges, PlayStations, you get busy on a game, and if you didn't have a memory card, you had to hide from your parents that you left it on all night. And I had to do that, for a good couple of years until somehow Sean sent me Final Fantasy VII, and we know the story of that, and a memory card. And that's the first time I ever had a memory card for the PlayStation. And literally, I filled that within I think 24 hours. And mainly I think it was FIFA 97 when I had the indoor football. Stuart, they never brought that back, but I love that that game. That the indoor football was amazing, and you just things they did back then was different in the sense that it's exciting. Now when you turn a game on that's say a football game, it's not exciting because it's all the team. Go and buy this, play with your own money. There's nothing like a career mode that gets you excited anymore, and that's sad for me. And that's why I moved to PC and did championship manager and now obviously football manager, because I have more sense of realism that I'm in control and I'm not having to buy out of my own pocket extra bits for it. Because it's not monopolized like that on PC.
Definitely, David. It was great coming back just to computer games to close out. We were conscious of time because we've had a lot of items today. But again, it's just football games, man. They were absolutely brilliant back in the day. There's no question about that. And a great game, that Champions League game. And you had the 2 group stages back then. Remember that?
Do you remember the other goal that we scored in Pilot Lane? And I think it was when Pro Evo had Champions League, when they had the rights to it before FIFA did. And I remember, I don't know, I think we were Juve in the Champions League, and you hit the corner from outside the box, and I hit it first time. I don't know which player it was, and it banged it right in top corner. And I can remember we celebrated like we were watching Everton at Goodison Park, because it was like we pulled we pulled these random like one-off goals. And it just, we wouldn't always win like games, or we wouldn't always win the trophies, but we'd score some weird standout goal or one standout moment that you can sort of go back and it's lodged in your memory forever.
Amazing. We'll have to get back to some more computer games because we haven't not neglected it as such. We've just been doing other things. There's been a lot of current stuff going on as in the seasons, but we do, like we say, we do like going back to nostalgia, and football games were just the be all and end all really when you look back for us growing up. You say about Final Fantasy, of course, and we had other games, but it was always centered.
FIFA when
it was centered around the football, wasn't it? 100%. I just want to thank the Sports Social Podcast Network again. I always close out with this. I intend to open up and talk about Sports Social at the start, but we're here now. We're towards the back end of the episode. The Sports Social Podcast Network, 550 partners and counting. Chris got me onto these guys years before with my concept with the wrestling. Then we had Big Fight Weekly with them as well, with the MMA and boxing, and now with the football, of course. Chris, they've been fantastic, haven't they, with us and all the support they give us? And just
definitely, Stuart. And every the podcasts we've done previously, as you say, Big Fight Weekly, and obviously you still do the wrestling and you're there with them, and they've been great with you doing with that, and obviously with this one as well. When we approached them, they were like immediately yes, but they are immediately yes with people. They are very good at understanding your needs and what you want, and they're always email away as well, Stuart. They're very quick at helping you.
Again, if you've got a podcast, I say this every week when we're on. It doesn't matter what sport it is, they have the gamut, the litany of podcasts in sport, golf, rugby. F1's a big one, especially with the season starting again. If you're into F1, go and have a look at their Formula One content with the guys that got there. As Chris said, when we started with the MMA and boxing, there wasn't any MMA and boxing on there. They've now got several. They've got several. If that's your thing, UFC. The boxing, which has been going on recently as well. Fantastic card over the weekend down at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
What a fight.
I'm sure if you want to hear the analysis of that and what people have talked about after Eubank and Connor, Ben, get over there, have a look at the Unholy Trinity podcast, Everton podcast, who Chris has been on their show a few times, haven't you? Mike's been on with us twice. We love Mike and the lads, obviously fantastic what they do. If you're an Evertonian, get on their show. Absolutely brilliant. I listen to it every week. They obviously review the current game, and then they go into the week's game, don't they, and preview that. And they have fans from other clubs on as well. They had a Forest fan on the other week after the game, didn't they? So yeah, Mike and the lads do a fantastic job with that. Chris, anything to add before we go?
No, I don't think we covered like this for this week's. I think the next couple of weeks, obviously, looking at us as a club, and I want to obviously focus a lot more. And I'm sorry for you people that aren't Evertonians, but obviously as we go gradually to the last bit of Goodison Park, I want obviously this is something I want me and you to talk memories, and obviously we'll go into Goodison Park on Wednesday, aren't we, next week for the tour. And obviously we'll take photos if you're interested, and we'll put them on the podcast of what photos we've taken, or videos and what have you. But obviously for me going forward in the next couple of weeks, that's something I want to do an episode of. And I apologise now because obviously if you're not an Everton fan, it's probably boring, but to me and Stuart and the rest of it, the Everton fans, leaving Goodison Park it's a major deal, and we've got so many memories up and down from that ground. And it'd be nice, Stu, for us to sort of have an hour to talk about how that ground is, shown us tears and laughter, heart, everything really. That's pretty much it, really. But as we're closing out for the show today, and we're closing out almost to the Premier League, Stu, we're going to do the FIFA World Club Championships. It's I've seen a lot of people not very happy with it, but I think that's something we'll do as well, isn't it?
We have shed a bit of light on it, haven't we? Literally, not a great deal, but leading into it, as you say, leading into the tournament, there'll be more and more stuff going on. What players will Chelsea and City have ready for it? Which players won't be in it? Essentially, they won't need a pre-season. For the main bulk of players, because they're going to play a lot of matches. It's a club World Cup, isn't it? Which on a grander scale, of course, there's over 30 clubs in it. So we've got a summer tournament in the club sense, not the international sense. So it'll be interesting to see, how that goes. And they're going to be testing the grounds out, which are going to make it into the International World Cup as well. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be big news for us, and we'll cover that in depth, I'm sure. And just all the best this evening to Barcelona and Inter Milan. All the best to Arsenal in the second leg next week. Yeah. All the best to United, who are away in Bilbao, of course. And we've also got Tottenham playing tomorrow night as well at Bodo Glimt, of course. And not forgetting Chelsea in the Europa Conference League. They've got Djurgårdens, the Swedish team, of course, in their semi-final. So, that will be interesting as well. So many, English clubs involved in those tournaments.
Which is great to see.
And leading into the summer and into next year, of course, we're going to have 5 clubs in the Champions League. So, this has been episode 53 of Football Then and Now. A look at modern topics in football and nostalgic topics too, as we've done today with old football computer games. And we look forward to seeing you for episode 54 of the show. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments today as well. And please find us on all podcast apps as well. If you don't want to see us, but you want to hear us, you can get us on all podcast apps. Put Football Then and Now into your podcast provider, whichever it is. And please get us on there. We charted on Apple UK on the football chart as well. We're in the top 250, which is no mean feat. It's very, very hard to chart. We were 94th, 95th, weren't we, this past week? So we're back in the charts there. And audio is huge as well for us. So please find us there. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate coming back as always. And like I say, I need to be more consistent, not inconsistent. You've got a comment there, actually, Stu, before we go quickly.
Matt Lewis, I hope so happy about Liverpool winning the Premier League. Yeah, you've been brilliant this season. It doesn't pay me to say it. Me and Chris have been very positive, bar the flared debacle with the blue smoke, of course. But no, Liverpool deserve it, of course. And I'm sure Slot will now be pushing for Champions League next season as well. I'm sure they'll want to try and do a double, which is tough to do, of course. But you've been, over this course of the season, you've been brilliant, and people can discredit the likes of Arsenal they can discredit City not being great this season, but you guys, are on course for 90 plus points, which is amazing over 38 games. It's just incredible. So yeah, again, Matt Lewis again. I'm so happy about Liverpool winning the league. And I hope so.
He repeated himself twice, Stu.
And I hope so. Yeah. We got your comment, mate. And yeah, all the best and thank you. And we'll see you next week for episode 54 of Football Then and Now.
See ya.
Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.